Hello, hello. Welcome everybody to our Sunday grief series. And we are so excited to introduce two amazing people. These are our new friends, Jen and Dave Peacock, and they live actually close to us. They are here in Florida, close to Orlando. And we have actually just connected with them through our losses, actually. One powerful thing about loss and a major blessing that I really feel like comes from God is the connections that we make with people who have gone through the exact same trials. Even though it's something that we never ever wish to be a part of or to be part of the club, it is a blessing to meet people who have gone through the same thing. And our family and their family, there's so many similarities that
And at
it's
the
almost
same
like,
time,
yeah, exactly. It's like almost God-given, almost like he put them in our hands to basically say, we know exactly what you're going through at the exact same time. Many of you know the story of Layla, and she passed away in April 9th. And there, Wesley, he passed away 2 days later on Easter Day. So it has truly been 10 months since the passing of our babies. And I'm so happy to have them just because they know exactly what we're going through, but they know exactly what many of you are going through. And what I have learned from them is just like how to find joy again. And I love when Jen and Dave chose that topic of finding joy, even through such a tragic, tragic thing. They've been able to find joy again and happiness in different ways. And today they're going to share their hearts with us and they're going to be open. And I hope that many of us can learn from them and feel their spirits. So first up, I'm just going to introduce them real fast. And they have been married for 20 years. So that's already a huge accomplishment right there.
Literally, not many people in the world are married that long anymore. Good for you.
oh my
I
gosh.
know,
Awesome.
and they celebrated this last month, so they're doing great.
That's awesome.
They do have 6 children, so 2 of those babies are angel children. So Wesley is the one that we're going to be talking about today. She has a little necklace that she's showing there, just a little wing. And her other one was a miscarriage. And like many of you, you've gone through miscarriages or losses. We know how hard that is. And so they do have 4 earthly children that are just amazing. Wesley was 10 months when he passed away, and Jen, she loves music, and so does Dave. So these two, hopefully in the future, we'll be able to hear some of their music that they do, because they are amazing. I've heard some of it.
Way to not put them on the spot. That'd be great, guys. That'd be great.
And Jen actually, after Wesley passed away, she knew that one of her passions was music, and she started to actually teach piano lessons. And I think that's a very big thing to kind of get your mind going again and get you up in the morning and get doing the things that you love to do. And then Dave is the same way. He loves music and he loves sports. So tonight's going to be a great night for him too.
Yep. Hanging out with the guys.
Exactly. Right. And of course their children.
Yeah. So our first question we have for you two guys is, so why are you guys survivors?
It's a great question and something we kind of spend a lot of time really kind of thinking about, because you don't necessarily feel like you're surviving. Sometimes you feel like you're just kind of going day by day, moment by moment. But when it really comes down to it, we felt that we are survivors because honestly, giving up is just not an option. There's just too many other people that rely on us, and too much that we have to look forward to just kind of break down and and stop functioning. So I think one of the wonderful things about this experience, as hard as it has been, is that we have been able to more fully appreciate how our Savior really helps us in all of our broken places. And that even when it's difficult for us to make it through, that he has strength where we are weak. And ultimately, that even difficulties such as tragedy and horrific loss, that they are part of the plan of happiness. They're not the most favorite parts, but they certainly allow us to feel even more joy. So I think for all of those reasons and the ability to connect with the Savior and his mission in lifting others, giving beauty for ashes, binding up the brokenhearted, all of those things that he says in Isaiah chapter 61, those are things that have now become deeply meaningful to us.
Oh, we lost their audio. Are
Oh,
you on?
I was on
There
mute
you
there
are.
for a second.
Yay.
So tell us a little bit. So tell us the story, guys. Kind of tell us. I know this is kind of really tender and personal, but if you wouldn't mind, kind of tell us the story.
You know, people always say things like, in order to move on, in order to heal, you have to own your story, right? That's like the new thing, own your story. For a long time in the very beginning, I didn't really want to own my story. I hated my story. I hate that it happened. It, like you said, you guys know, it's very traumatic and raw. But the reality is that on Good Friday, April 2020, Wesley drowned in our pool and he passed away 2 days later on Easter morning. And it happened at the start of COVID lockdown, and our family was struggling, like most all of other families, to get into a routine with all the kids doing online school, and Dave was working from home. At the same time, we were remodeling our house and more than one area, with workers coming in and out and just experiencing a lot of disruption and stress when it happened. But I will never forget the strong impression that I had that came to my mind to go find Wesley now, and the importance of that moment that it had in my life, even if it didn't result in the miracle that we wanted. And so telling the story, we had to take notes. If you see me looking down, I'm trying to remember. Sometimes trauma just messes with your short-term memory. But when telling our story, we don't want to focus so much on the accident and how everything exactly that happened, how we responded, so we can tell you all the good things without falling apart. But it's difficult to go back to those memories. We're still healing. We love Wesley so much. You know, we don't want to solely focus on the accident, but rather we're trying to shift our grief positively on advocacy and awareness in the problem of childhood drowning, because it's literally the top killer of children between 1 and 4, especially where we live, where you live and we live in Florida. And so we really want to help with awareness. So we created a campaign for Wesley's first heavenly birthday called 5 to Survive with the Survivors Group. And it's doing really well. And we're really excited that we're going to be able to provide some lessons for children who need them, for swimming lessons through the Live Like Jake Foundation. So we're excited about that. So that's our current story right now, what we're doing. But we're happy that we chose to speak up and share our experience and be willing to talk about it, because friends of ours and other people have also been willing to take action and get in there and sign up their kids and sign up their babies for lessons right away. I was going to tell a quick story about one day when I was sitting on my phone, just feeling that self-pity that you feel in this situation sometimes. And I had shared a video that was very successful, like 8,000 views. I never put anything in my whole life to public before. And I clicked public on the day that I threw away all of our flotation devices. I called it Throw Away Your Puddle Jumpers Day. I was just kind of angry. I think I was angry that day. And I just did this live video and threw away my puddle jumpers and talked to people about all the things my swim coach had told me that I need to tell people, about flotation devices and not relying on them, and the best kind of life jackets and all these different cool things that she taught us. Anyway, and so we did get a few nasty comments that were kind of hurtful, but mostly support. And they hurt me so much that I was texting my friend. I'm like, can you believe what this person said? She's like, Jen, don't focus on that. You're doing so much good being vulnerable. This is helping people. And I'm sitting here, are you sure? I don't know. I think I'm just going to delete this. It just was a really frustrating moment. And right after that moment, literally probably 30 seconds later, I got a text from my friend, Jessica Lawrence. And she said, Jen, I don't know if this is going to be triggering for you, but I had a strong impression that I needed to text you a picture of Charlotte and her swimming lessons. She's doing so great. Look at her floating. She sends me this video. And I just could not believe it. I was like, oh my gosh, you are there. God does love me. He does care that I'm hurting right now. And he's telling me that I'm making a difference. So that was one of the coolest experiences I had.
Yeah. I think whenever you go through something like this, you try to look for the good. You try to look for what we call the balm of Gilead, which is kind of a scriptural reference that has become meaningful to us, that talks about healing. And for us, that healing comes when we feel like we're trying to do something, we're able to bring good out of tragedy. We love Wesley, we miss him, But if we can do something good in his name and in his memory, if we can help someone else, then
Helps you heal.
that brings healing to us. And honestly, I didn't really even think about that until we started kind
Watching
of
you guys.
watching you guys and
And
seeing
survivors.
how well that worked to facilitate your own healing. And so that became a great blessing to us. I think there are many specific ways in which we've now been able to find connection to Wesley through joy. And we've been able to realize that Wesley is still there. He is still the unconditional, loving little boy that he always was and always will be. And even though we don't physically feel close to him as much,
He can feel
spiritually,
close.
he comes to us and we can feel it, and it becomes very special to us.
Yeah, you guys, that's awesome. I know COVID was such a crazy time, but during that time of COVID and so forth, what kind of messages from God or have you felt and promptings you had to kind of help you through this process?
I couldn't really feel a lot at first because I was in shock, but I didn't realize that was exactly what it was. I just was kind of numb for a couple of months. And, you feel like everybody's watching you for your reactions and how you're going to be doing. The whole neighborhood was awesome. They helped us in so many ways. But I was a little bit numb. Honestly, I couldn't get to that yet. And so I did want to talk about that a little bit today. How we, like I was saying before, we gave ourselves a lot of freedom to feel how we needed to feel. We were honest with each other and those around us about how we were doing. We didn't try to just tough it out. We asked for help. I learned just to be gentle with ourselves. We focused a lot on like self-care and trying to get enough sleep, making sure we ate food, even though we didn't feel like it. And that was kind of all we focused on at first, is just self-care. The kids took a break from school. We just tried to rest. But then that like anger kind of slipped in, and confusion, and like some of those denial, weird feelings that you go through then. And that's when I reached out to a friend, and we started walking a lot. My friend Melinda, we talked a lot and verbally processed a lot of that out with her or my therapist. And I wrote a lot in my journal, which is something I never used to do. That was really important. So like when you go through trauma, it affects your memory, your short-term memory. We now had like all these cool moments and miracles and stuff that had happened to us during that time written down. And that was cool. That helped me a lot to get towards any messages from God. I really had to work through some of those harder feelings. And the hardest one was betrayal. That was a feeling I didn't realize I was feeling, that I felt betrayed by God, until I was like in a therapy session and my therapist was like, "You're getting to it. You're almost there, but you're not quite there." She's like, "You're feeling betrayal." And I was like, "Oh my gosh, but I love God. Like, how could I feel that?" Like, "Oh my gosh, I do feel that." Like, it was really weird to come to terms with that. But I'd never really had a situation where I really, really needed something and the answer was no. Like I usually, the things would kind of work out. And so this was like the first time I really didn't get the thing I needed the most. And so that was hard to work through. And sometimes I still feel it, but it's smaller now that I'm focusing on service and healing and connecting through joy and the good things that have happened since then. But I had to work through that first.
Yeah. One of the, talking about messages from God, those are pretty sacred experiences and pretty tender. And, those come to people in different ways. Sometimes those come as thoughts and impressions. Sometimes it's like somebody speaks up on something that you needed to hear. It kind of happens in different ways, but I think it's really important to realize that God sends messages all the time. And he loves us and he wants us to know that we're supported and that we feel him through that.
And once you recognize that they are from him, you'll get more, especially if you write them down. That's kind of what happened to me. Yeah. But for that first little while, I didn't really get any messages because I didn't want my heart broken again, kind of like I said before. And so, but once I got back to a better connection through him, I remember one time I just was really praying like he was actually there with me in the room. We were talking about my worst feelings, about what had happened. And I just mustered the courage to say what I really thought. And I just remember crying a lot and saying what I really thought. And I finally became willing to test that idea that God could handle my anger. He could handle my disappointment. And I didn't need to be like ashamed that I had that human emotion, because a lot of times people will say, oh, anger, you can't be angry. I really think we need to process anger and release it in healthy ways so we can get on to the joy. But that was kind of a tender moment for me, because I did have some answers after that came that he does still love me, and that was good.
Yeah. Do you want to tell them a little bit about the Chosen series?
Oh yeah, that was the second cool thing that happened. I know a lot of people have probably heard about this show already. It's called The Chosen, and it really makes you feel like you're right there with the Savior in his everyday life, and it is great. I highly recommend it. Especially because I was kind of struggling with my relationship with God at that time. So for me, it was the perfect timing. And we started watching it, and I just cried when I first saw one of the episodes where Christ performed a miracle and healed someone. And here we are in this mess of 2020, right? Last year, where lots of us weren't getting yeses to our earnest pleas for miracles. And during one of those particular scenes, I felt the words in my mind, "You will get your miracle. When I resurrect him, you'll get it." And so I just said, I needed that reminder. And then I just cried harder and looked at my husband. I'm like, okay, we're going to get our miracle. He's like, what are you talking about? I'm like, I'll tell you later. So just like one of those moments. But I also just kept writing these things down. And then I would realize he is messaging me in my mind. I just need to recognize that that's the Spirit talking to me. And so that helped me shift more into joy, and just it was a good turning point.
Yeah, I think, when you're feeling the pain and the agony, it's very easy to get caught up in that. Like, you can feel like a victim, you can feel like this is unfair and life is just trash, and all of this, and you're just really coming really from a place of pain and agony. But then you have these moments where God says, I know exactly what you're going through, and I'm going to help you. And by the way, I'm not just going to help you in the big things, I'm going to help you in the little things too. And one of my favorite things that happened to me was, after Wesley passed, we have this, like, one of our most favorite videos of him is where he talks about where he's using sentences like for the first time.
I'm like,
and,
oh, what do you have, Wesley?
Yeah, he has like this little circle toy. And Jen's asking him in the video, and she's like, what is that, Wesley? And he goes, "Adiko, mom, adiko." It's like the circle. It's so cute. Like, we love it. It's our favorite video. And after he passed, like, I just kind of like probably was obsessing about this little toy. Like, I just have to find this. We have to find it. We have to be able to put it in his little keepsake. We're going to hold it. And I couldn't find it. I tore apart the entire house. I'm like a crazy person going through drawers and closets and everything. I couldn't find it. And finally, I just kind of gave up and I said, Heavenly Father, I know that this is a really small thing, but it would sure be great if you could help me find this little toy. And then I just kind of left it in his hands. And then a couple of days later, my wife literally screams from the other room. She's like, I found it. And, she was like looking for a hairbrush or something totally random, small drawer, all the way in the back, up tucked under.
I was down like this. Did I even see it?
And she comes and runs to me and brings this circle toy. And like, we just wept. Like, I know it's such a small, tiny little thing, but I literally had prayed for this and then found it in like the darkest corner of our house. And so, to us, it was a testament that God really cares about the little things that are important to us too.
I love, love, love that you guys mentioned that it's okay to have anger. I remember right after it happened, it was like 2 days later, and I was angry, but I thought that if I showed my anger, I'd be punished for that, or God would be very disappointed in me. And my sister, who had her daughter pass away, she said, Shannon, it's okay to be angry at God. When she gave me that permission, I got really angry. I got really mad. Yeah. Ask him. He's never seen me like that before, but I was angry and mad, and I have never hid anything, and I was hitting the walls, and I was just very mad. And I remember just thinking, our own Father, if something bad happened to us, he would understand us and he would still love us. And our Father in heaven is the exact same way. If our children were mad, we want them to come to us with anger and with, and I really felt like after I did that, I knew God was going to be there no matter what after that. It's like I almost needed to do that to know that he'd still support me and love me even after I was mad. And ever since that moment, I've never, ever even thought twice if he was there. Even though sometimes, like you said, it may not always feel like he's there, but he does it in small, simple ways if we ask and if we are in tune with him. Because when we aren't, we're just so miserable, we can get lost in what is not important, right?
Yeah,
So
absolutely.
that's wonderful. Thanks, guys.
Yeah, you guys, you kind of mentioned this, but like I know there's a lot of people that always wish they could have their kids kind of like connect with them or you know, to have that connection. Have you guys had any ways that you found Wesley's helped you find a way to connect with you guys still in your lives today?
Yeah.
Yes, there are a couple definite ways that Wesley has kind of given us some guidance on how to, and I didn't want this talk to be super long, so I was trying to pick my favorite, but I'll summarize the first two. The first thing that he said in my mind to me one day was, "Mommy, you've got to forgive people if you want to be where I am." I was like, okay, here's my little 2-year-old, 26-month-old son telling me, "You've got some blocks there, Mom. You need to forgive people." And as it turns out, like the very people I was feeling some hurt from are the very people who stepped up to help and the very people who organize these amazing things. Not all of them, of course, these are just minor things, but just clearing things like that. And the second one was like, I wanted to post happy videos of him. I was so sad and everybody was so sad and I didn't want them to be sad whenever they think of this beautiful little boy. And I'm like, I should post a happy video of him. Is that gonna remind everyone and make them sad? It was really awkward. You don't know how to deal with it on social media. And then immediately it was, "Mommy, let me make them happy. Everyone is so sad. Let me make them happy." I'm like, okay, we're doing it then. Laugh like Wesley. That was just like immediately came soon after that, the idea for that hashtag. But the one that was really poignant was on a week that Dave was traveling for the first time after this had happened. And I was like, oh, wow, just really praying for strength before he left, that I'd be okay that week for the kids and just that everything would go smoothly. And I told him he needed to be there with me. He needed to come that week. I tell him when he needs to be here, just like a mom would. And it was a really good week. Like I wasn't super sad. It was just a really smooth week. And near the end of the week, I felt him talking to my spirit again. And he said, "Let me be your greatest strength, not your greatest sorrow." Like he just was like, let me help you, like there's so much power on this side of the veil, access it. That's just kind of what I felt him saying to me. And so we've been working together since then. And we ask him when we need his help.
I think another one that we won't be able to share all of the examples with you, but we've heard it from a couple of families that there's like some kind of physical representation of their child that keeps showing up in their lives. And I don't know if this happens to everyone or if it's just kind of unique, but in our circumstances, Wesley is really like, we associate him with like the sunflower.
Light.
And
looking to the light.
Looking towards the light. A sunflower is really significant because it always turns to face towards the light, wherever that is.
And so when our friend was asking us what we want to do for his memorial table for the service, we said something cheery, bright, little boyish. How about like daisies or sunflowers or something? And so the sunflowers became the way we decorated everything that day. And he was in the casket with a little sunflowers, little yellow flowers. But we had some big ones on the table. So that kind of became a symbol. And I wanted more of them. And there was one particular day where I was like, I wish we had sunflowers, because we were replacing fresh ones the first week or two before his vase came that's on the plaque. And I hated seeing them get old and start dying. It was just really hard for me for some reason. I'm like, okay, we're going back down to bring flowers today. Wish we had sunflowers. We're all going out to the car. And the last one out, Jesse comes out and says, someone's ringing the doorbell. So we go back in and we find a vase of big, beautiful sunflowers with a card. And I'm like, you've got to be kidding me. Look at everybody and open up the card. It's from a friend. I messaged her on Facebook, so I don't have her phone number, but I said, did you know that Wesley's flowers are sunflowers, that has like meaning to our family? And she said, no, I just got a bunch of them this morning and thought you would like them. And so I just was like, oh, I love it. I love it. And you know, that was the main one. And then when we just fast forward, we don't have time to share all of them, but when we came home from our anniversary trip, which we might not have taken had it not been for you guys, like, go celebrate, when we talked the other day, and it was great, had a great weekend. I remembered this journal we were given at our wedding that I wanted to write in, that we used to write to each other when we were first married in. And I'm like, where is that? I found it, I pulled it out. It's this pretty blue book, and in the center is sunflowers. And I was like, oh my gosh, I totally forgot that. This is amazing. I start flipping through the pages, and I find a card that when I was a teenager at a church activity, we had all written like a letter to our future husbands. It's one of those church activities. We've all done it. And I taped it in there when we got married because it was such a cool letter and I wanted to keep it there. And what is on the cover? Sunflowers. And so I just thought, you know, God must have known I was going to have some tough trials in my life. And I just need to keep focused on light. I need to shift away from anything that envelops me with any kind of darkness.
Yeah.
And just keep looking towards Christ and looking towards God.
You know,
which always leads us to each other when we both do that.
It's true.
So.
When we connect through joy, it honestly takes a conscious effort. Like it takes intentionality. You have to choose it.
Yeah, you do.
And then when you choose it, you realize that God is right there helping you and helping you kind of get out of darkness. So the sunflowers, the whole turn to the light aspect of it, and the connection with Wesley, and all these, literally, probably we have a dozen stories about sunflowers that we've experienced in the last 10 months, have been a great way to make us feel like we're still connected to Wesley, and he's still running around here doing good things.
But we took like baby photos of him at this little farm we went to one day with a bunch of sunflowers with me and him, and all these cute pictures popped up on my Google Photos memories one morning, and I was just a mess. I'm like, sunflowers again. It's just so wonderful. Anyway, so.
Well, so you guys have kind of talked about this, but would you mind just kind of share what are some like small little things you guys have done to have that connection with Wesley, and kind of maybe tell other people what are some small things they can do, kind of have that connection, you know, with their child again? What do you think?
Well, that's you know, a really profound thing, and something that, again, we kind of learned from some of the folks in the survivors group, and really came around like integrating your loved one into your life. And so, you know, it's recently we went through the holidays. We were super worried that we were just going to be a mess all December. We thought we're just going to be constantly triggered by the music, which, you know, sometimes we were, and that this was just going to be a deeply mournful type experience. But throughout the whole month, Jen especially kept having these ideas to like start integrating Wesley back into our regular routines.
And I listened to some of Stacy's posts and things about what they did. And then I just kind of got inspired off of that. So that's one of the reasons I love this group. We were just shopping at Walmart, and we got a special tree just for him, like they were talking about. But the cool thing was, when we saw the tree we wanted, we went to go get the box, and it was called the Wesley Pine. And I'm just like, this kid, he's amazing. I love him. And the boys wanted one for their room too. So we come up with these 2 Wesley pine trees from Walmart. And it was just like, super cool. I made these special ornaments for each of the kids with a quote on the front, and I Mod Podged a picture of them with Wesley on the back. They all will get to keep that. They love that. We wrote letters to him and put it in a stocking, and we keep those in there every year. So we just write a small piece of paper, you know, our index card, whatever we did. The kids really enjoyed that, and they all got a present from him. So that was cool. But we really got set up for success because of this group, and that was really great. What else did we do? Let's see, other small things that we do. I know we wrote some of these down.
Well, you know, I think it's in little things too. Like we have a kind of a ritual where we're driving by on the road next to his memorial garden. It's actually very close to us.
We say one more day.
You know, we blow him a kiss and say one more day, one day closer.
We say, yay, I did it all the time when we do something, because that's what he would always say. Whenever the number 10 is brought up, we say 10, just in his the way he used to do it. He'd count up and go 10. So anything that cute that reminds us of him. Pictures, music. Our friends got us these beautiful pillows for each of us that have pictures of that person with Wesley and a quote on the front. Everybody has their own. We have a doll somebody crocheted us, different small things. I made like a little angel ornament thing that we travel with. Just, I don't know, we do all sorts of things. Jewelry, things like that can help you feel close to them. We also, someone gave us this beautiful wind chime for the back porch. So when we go out there to use our gym or to play, and we kept his toys out there, we still had the basketball hoop, the car. We just kind of ring the wind chime and blow a kiss to heaven. Annabelle, little children, especially, she loved that as a way to connect with him.
Well, guys, that's awesome. We only actually have a few minutes left, but
Yeah.
I just want to say, is there any kind of like quotes that you guys liked, and then kind of I'll let you guys kind of wrap up with what you'd like to leave with people as you guys finish talking today.
You want to share?
Yeah, sure.
Our neighbor.
So we have a sweet old neighbor. She's like 80 years old, and we've adopted her as our grandma, and she's just wonderful. And she came about a week after Wesley passed, and she brought us a card and probably something to eat. And she was so sweet. The card said, "What would heaven be like if there were only old people?"
That made us smile.
And that was sad. It brought about the fact that God loves all of his children, and heaven needs cute little people too.
She lost a brother that was young also. Another thing, my friend Lindsay, she sent me a podcast from Heidi Swinton. You'll have to listen to it another time. She had lost a child, and their doctor sat down with them afterwards and said, someday you'll sit down with all your family and be so grateful that you have one that's made it all the way home. I like that one. And the last one I loved the most was just random. I just saw it on Facebook one day. Someone had posted, "Every day on earth is one day closer to seeing your loved one again." And so I literally just hang on to that, one day closer. And that way it makes me feel like I'm moving towards Wesley. And even at the new year, I don't know about you guys, I felt like this sadness after Christmas was great. We had all this high on the holidays. And then afterwards it was like, I'm leaving him. This was the last year I spent time with him, that I saw him. And so when I focused on the one day closer, it put me more on a path towards him and working together to get to that moment, that joyful moment. And so that helps me.
I know we're short on time, and I think one thing that we like to do as part of this group is really to extend a challenge to other people. We are so grateful to everybody who gave us some of these wonderful ideas and encouraged us to find ways to integrate Wesley into our lives again and to connect with him. And we would just like to pay that forward and ask other people to take on that same challenge. Find a way to connect with your loved one. Find what is blocking you and release it. If you need to forgive that person, if you need to let go of anger, if you need to just let yourself grieve hard for a second and then receive comfort, do it. Do it for yourself, do it for the other person, and connect with them. And then, even though it's hard, and even though you may, tear up, just write it down. Write down the special experiences that are happening in these tender mercies that you're experiencing, because they're sacred. And even in our 10 months, we now look back and we realize that we had some very special experiences that if we hadn't captured them, then we wouldn't be blessed to go back and reflect on those things today. So write down your special experiences and let that be a strength to you in moving forward. We're very grateful for you guys for setting this up. We're thankful for the opportunity to kind of share our story, and just look forward to continuing to connect with other people and to help
mourn with those that mourn.
Yeah,
it becomes easier.
Yeah. So,
let there be joy on this earth, right? Even after
you.
tragedy.
Absolutely.
You guys are phenomenal. And we haven't even met them yet, but we're going to meet them really soon in real life, because the Zoom thing, you kind of feel like you know them, but I know they're going to be even more cooler in real life.
Well, we haven't physically, but we've talked to them about the
Many
most
times, yeah.
probably intimate situations of our life, losing our kids. So once you kind of have a conversation with people, you kind of feel like connected to them. So
Absolutely.
That's what Survivors is about. So thanks for
right.
being survivors with us, you guys. We know there's so many more out there looking for maybe a community or group of people to talk to. And that's exactly why we come together as a group of people who have lost not only their children or loved ones, but just lost in life or going through a hard time. So please connect with us.
Yeah.
Peacocks are awesome. There's so many other couples that are here to help others too.
And just closing, I just want to tell everyone, like, this is what life's about, is helping others that are struggling. Because one point in our life, we're going to be high, and there's going to be times we're going to be low. And the only difference is we have a choice to what to do with our lives. Is when we're at a high point, do we reach down to help others or not? And at this time, as you can tell, this family, they're taking this tragedy and literally turning it for the best they possibly can to make the world a better place. And I think that's what the life is worth living, is making this world a better place. And so thank you guys for sharing your story. Thank you for doing something to inspire others, because sitting here, me and my wife are like, that's a really good idea.
I know you guys give us tons of ideas. I'm like, it's true.
And,
The small little things that we have to want to find joy. That is so true.
And just realizing that there's other people that have gone through what you've done. And if other people have gone through it, maybe it can encourage you to keep fighting. I like that. Just one day closer. And sometimes in life, going through this, it is just one day at a time, right? Some days you're just like, I just need to get through this day. And I love that saying, one day closer to your loved one. So thank you so much.
And you guys, just so you know too, they're the ones doing the February service on 5 to Survive.
That's right.
And she's posting tons of things on her private page. So you can go to Jen Peacock or Dave Peacock, and they have everything posted, but she's posting like her own personal videos. She is posting though on survivors on Mondays. But if you want more information, this is a very big topic that is so huge for any parent that you very much need to educate yourself.
They literally are getting money together to put children through these life-saving classes that we both lost our children to. And me and my wife have talked about this. We wish we'd have done that. Our child would have lived if we would have done that earlier. And that's what they're basically doing, is they're helping other children live out there. So please look into that, donate to their wonderful cause and helping other children live. Thank you guys so much.
Thanks, you guys. Bye. Have a great Sunday. Bye.